Okay. Shabbat Shalom. This week we're going to continue on with the triennial Torah portion. We are in last week was the last portion from Exodus, from Shemot. This week we begin with Vayiqra, Leviticus. Vayiqra. We look at first two chapters of Leviticus. We have a single verse in Isaiah and a single verse in Jeremiah. A little bit in Micah, chapter 6 and 7, and 1 Corinthians, chapter 3. So we'll look at those things today, see what we can.
What a lot. Oh, there's just some verses.
Yeah, those are just single verses.
Mom.
We'll see what happens with that. Okay, so Vayiqra. Let's start off, I guess, just by reading the first chapter of Leviticus. The first chapter of Leviticus. Let's read that.
You want to read this?
Vayiqra, chapter 1.
I need new glasses. My Bible's the word is being kind of small.
The words is shrinking.
Yeah, they're shrinking.
Okay, go ahead. Read it.
And Yahweh called unto Moses and spoke unto him out of the tabernacle of the congregation, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, If any man of you bring an offering unto Yahweh, ye shall bring your offering of the cattle, even of the herd and of the flock. If his offering be a burnt sacrifice of the herd, let him offer a male without blemish. He shall offer it of his own voluntary. If his offering be a burnt sacrifice, voluntary will at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before Yahweh. And he shall put his hands upon the head of the burnt offering, and it shall be accepted for him to make atonement for him. And he shall kill the bullock before Yahweh. And the priests, Aaron's sons, shall bring the blood and sprinkle the blood round about upon the altar that is by the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And he shall flay the burnt offering and cut it into his pieces. And the sons of Aaron, the priests, shall put fire upon the altar, and lay the wood in order upon the fire. And the priest, Aaron's sons, shall lay the parts, the head and the fat, in order upon the wood that is on the fire, which is upon the altar. But his inwards and his legs shall he wash in water, and the priest shall burn all on the altar to be a burnt sacrifice. An offering made by fire of a sweet savior unto Yahweh. And if his offering be of the flocks, namely of the sheep or of the goats, for a burnt sacrifice, he shall bring it a male without blemish, and he shall kill it on the side of the altar northward, before Yahweh. And the priest Aaron's sons shall sprinkle his blood round about upon the altar, and he shall cut it into his pieces with his head and his fat. And the priest shall lay them in order on the wood that is on the fire which is upon the altar. But he shall wash the inwards and the legs with water, and the priest shall bring it all and burn it upon the altar. It is a burnt sacrifice and offering by fire of a sweet Savior unto Yahweh. And if the burnt sacrifice for his offering to Yahweh be of fowls, then he shall bring his offering of turtle doves or of young pigeons. And the priest shall bring it unto the altar and wring off his head and burn it on the altar. And the blood thereof shall be wrung out at the side of the altar. And he shall pluck away his crop with his feathers, and cast it beside the altar on the east part by the place of ashes. And he shall cleave it with the wings thereof, but shall not divide it asunder. And the priest shall burn it upon the altar, upon the wood that is upon the fire. It is a burnt sacrifice, an offering made by fire of a sweet Savior unto Yahweh.
Okay. Very good. All right. So, Vayiqra. Again, we finished up with Exodus last week, and we seen how all of the tabernacle was basically put into operation. And so now, once we have that done, now we have the specifics as to how worship would be conducted. So it begins, Vayiqra begins with, of course, as it says in the first verse, and Yahweh called. Vayiqra is actually saying, and he called, he being Yahweh. Vayiqra. The word here is kara. Kara. Which looks like this in the Hebrew. It means to call. It means accosting a person. Accosting a person met. To call out to a person, to address by name. Cry unto, to encounter, whether accidentally or hostile. The encounter is either accidental or hostile, by accident or with intention, and to cause to come. Kara.
Cause to be what? Come?
Yes, to cause to come. So the ancient Kara looks like this. It's the sun at the horizon. The sun at the horizon. The man's head. And the ox's head. So you have the idea of gathering, coming together, condensed, the condensing of light. Because again, this is the sun and horizon, so the light kind of gets condensed and gathers up at this kind of the horizon point. So you have the idea of coming together or gathering of men and strength. The head, you could think about the head as also, you could think of it as being the mind, because the head, the mind's in the head. It's not that hard to get that. Or so when somebody calls out to you and you hear them calling out to you, your mind then now is kind of turned towards the one that's calling you. And again, the ox's head is strength. So when we have this idea of turning your mind strongly towards a thing, that's the idea that we have here with Korah, and Yahweh again is Korahing to Moses. He's calling out to Moses. He's gathering Moses' mind with strength to him to relay these ideas of worship to him, to let Moses know how these things will go forth. So we see here the offerings that are brought. We look in verse 2 where it says, "Speak unto the children of Israel and say unto them, if any man of you bring an offering," if any man bring an offering. So now he's going to tell Israel what the criteria is for an offering that would be brought. We think about offering, the word there is, the word is korban. Korban. Which it kind of almost looks like Korah, almost. Some extra.
It's not like when Yeshua was talking about the I guess the Pharisees and stuff. They would like tithe their mint and their cumin, but then whenever it was like for some, like if it was time to give an offering or something like that, they wouldn't give to the widows or something. They called it korban, something like that. I'm probably chopping that one thing up. You know what I'm talking about, guys?
No.
I know what you're talking about in terms of Yeshua chastising the Pharisees because they were, like you said, tithing their spices and herbs.
Oh yeah, I know that.
They didn't pay attention to the weightier matters.
The weightier, the widows, and all that.
Yeah. But besides offering meaning korban, I'm not sure what the connection there is. But the word korban actually means to be brought near.
Oh yeah, that is the word though. That's the word he uses, korban.
Well, the word is sacrifice. I mean, offering. It means a sacrificial present. Korban comes from Korah, which is going to be this first part here.
You know what I'm trying to say?
No, it's
Oh.
almost.
It's almost
two
okay. Yeah.
letters. Which again just means to bring near or to approach. So that's really what we have here in terms of what Yahweh is saying to Moses when he's calling out to him, when he's causing his mind to be turned towards him. He's talking to him about drawing near unto Yahweh. Again, we're talking about worship. We're talking about sacrifices. He's giving him the instructions for drawing near towards to Yahweh. So, these ideas are, very important because, we think about the fact that we're not bringing no sacrifices or things, but, the idea of drawing near to Yahweh is not something that goes away. It don't, didn't disappear. But we have to be able to look at what was done to be able to understand how we can, kind of do that same kind of a thing even now. Looking at what was done and, also saying what not to be doing. Right? We can still gain parameters for our approach to the Most High based on what we had here in this sacrificial system. I mean, we can look and just see, just right on the top and see that just by the very fact that there were certain animals that was to be brought. If you're going to bring an offering, it got to be this, or this, or this, right? It can't just be whatever you feel like bringing. I can't just say, well, I got pigs, so I'll go ahead and bring that.
Or I just like this certain animal.
This is my favorite.
I like a deer.
Maybe
like a deer. Like a deer is a clean animal.
He says this is my favorite.
A deer isn't something that you can offer on.
Right. You
can't sacrifice a deer. You don't want a deer.
Yeah. It don't gotta be. So it doesn't necessarily have to be
unclean
having to do with being clean or unclean, but these specific things he wants. So when we think about these people who, when you think about kind of what goes on with mainstream Christianity, and when it comes to like, Christmas or Easter or something, where they're saying, well, this is how I want to.
This is how I express my faith.
Yeah, this is how I worship the Lord.
That's good right there. Yeah.
And this is how I think about. I think about his birth.
Yeah, that's good.
And I worship him with.
That's what people say too.
I'm expressing my the love of Jesus towards you when I give you a Christmas present.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? But
that's what they say.
he has given us express details about the worship that he wants, and it doesn't include things that are connected with pagan worship. We saw that with the golden calf. They sat up there and called this golden calf Yahweh, but people died as a result of this, right? It was gross iniquity, the thing that they were doing. You can't just worship Yahweh any kind of way. You can't just give him any old thing, right? You don't want it, right? And even there's parameters within the parameters. If you're going to bring an offering, it has to be a young male, right? So even within the parameters,
not just the male,
there's parameters.
Young male.
So
You can't
we
bring them
we
some
have to
old
we have
animal.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can't bring some old decrepit thing. Well, this thing
Mhm.
is on its last leg. I'm
Oh,
gonna get
it's
this
a
thing
mess.
out.
Yeah.
I gotta work this thing to death here. I'm just gonna go ahead.
You gotta give them something that's in the prime
Yeah.
of life.
That's
Or even
worthy.
like saying like it was convenient. Like, let me get this one because it's convenient.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
Convenience don't work with y'all. You don't want convenience. And then when you even think about,
Or your leftover.
you think about, sacrifice. You think about the idea of sacrifice.
Yeah.
You're giving something.
Mhm.
You're giving up something. It's not just, it's not a sacrifice. If I got $10 million, $100 not a sacrifice. You know what I mean? If I got $10 million,
Mhm.
It's like, oh, here you go.
$100 ain't a sacrifice. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It don't mean anything to me. Like, it's just like me going up in my little penny jar, pouring out a handful of pennies and giving it, and that'll be my sacrifice.
Mhm.
To me, that's not a sacrifice. It's not giving. It don't mean anything. I'm not losing.
It's not
It
significant.
don't take away from anything. Where you talk about a young bull,
That something could be used.
right? First of
Yeah,
all,
something worthy.
when you look at these, where it talks about the bull and the sheep and the goats and the turtle doves and the pigeons, the bulls. How does it say? It says the animals from the herd or the flocks. It really going from like the most expensive, the most valuable gift down to the least value. The bull, that bull, would have been on top in terms of its value,
Mhm.
right? So everybody wasn't necessarily given bulls. Usually it would be like the priests and like kings and things and people that were, had a lot of things, right? The common person really was dealing with the sheeps and the goats. But
Or there's the flocks. What's this?
the
Those are the flocks.
flocks is the birds, right?
Oh wait, the flocks is the birds.
Yeah.
Well, what's the cows? The bulls.
Well, you got what's it say there? That verse 3, if his offering is an elevation offering from the herd, you shall offer it now without defect. Hold on, that's not the verse. Verse 2. Speak to the sons of Israel, saying to them, when any man of you bring an offering to come near, be elevated to Yahweh, you shall bring your offering of animals from the herd or from the flocks.
Uh-huh.
So the division is a herd or the
Okay.
flocks.
So even though a cow is more expensive, it's
Well,
still
a
a
bull.
herd or bull.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a cow. The cow would be the heifer.
It's still incorporated in the
Okay.
okay, so when you think about the bull, right? You think about the bull and what it represents. The bullock. Again, so the animal required here in terms of a requirement for here, it's just telling you what is acceptable, but not just to say that you have to bring a bull, but if you're going to bring something, it has to be this. But like I said, usually the ones who was bringing bulls was going to be the high priest. And we see later on when we look at the Day of Atonement, the thing that the priest brought for himself was a bullock. But when you think about the characteristics of a bull, it's this big, strong animal, this strong-willed, self-determined animal. This animal that You can't really, it's this untamable, strong
It's stronger than you.
force that's, I always think about those bull riding competitions where they try to sit on this thing for like, if you done sat on it for like 7 seconds, you're like the best.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This thing
Yeah, that thing is strong. They be pouncing them.
They put this little things on it.
Yeah, they do that.
They put what on it?
They're antagonizing it while they're.
Yeah, I think they got stuff tied around this.
Really? I didn't know that.
Then they have the little things on their shoes that they.
Use spurs.
Aww.
But the point is that
they're
this
strong.
big, huge animal it's just raging. So when you think about the idea of sacrifice, when you think about the idea of presenting this gift, this offering, you think about the idea of giving away something. Think about this characteristic of this bull, this thing that is this strong thing, this self-determined, strong-willed thing. But you're giving that over unto Yahweh. You're giving that self-determination, that strong will. You're offering that over to the Most High. Again, this bullock being this upper echelon of offerings, this thing that's on top in terms of what you're handing over. When we think about the fact that in Yeshua, right, we're called a nation of kings and priests, and the bullock being the offering of the king and the priest, right? It then becomes our responsibility to offer up our strong will, that thing that represents our own strength, our own will, right? As a nation of kings and priests, it then becomes our obligation. We're obligated to offer that bullock, and all the things that. No, you can't bring a pigeon, right?
If you're a priest, you gotta bring the.
Right, priests on the Day of Atonement can't bring no pigeon. You can't bring no turtle dove. He got to bring a bull. We're not talking about what you obligated to do based on this chapter, because it's just giving you the criteria for offerings. But I'm saying in terms of looking at those things that are offered and the characteristics that they hold, when we look at the bull, it being that thing again that is symbolizes that strong will and self-determination. I'm saying that when we look at this thing and try to bring some practical application to the situation, us as followers of Yeshua need to recognize that obligation unto Yahweh is to offer our wills unto Him. Let's see here. This says what was that? Hold on one second. Oh yeah, there it is there.
Yeah, that's real good. Yeah.
Oh, verse 3. No, it's not. Oh, yeah, it is verse 3. Verse 3. If his offering be a burnt sacrifice of the herd, let him offer a male without blemish. He shall offer it of his own volition, his own voluntary will, at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before Yahweh. Right? So this burnt offering, the sacrifice, no matter what it is, no matter what the offering is brought, it says here, of his own voluntary will. His own voluntary will. Free will. That word is ratzon, which means delight or desire, or something that is just your own pleasure. Something that you're bringing not based on compulsion, not because you're forced to do it, just because you want to do it. This is what you want to do. So again, we think about the idea of what the bull represents, you wanting to give over that strong self-will over to Yahweh. Not kind of feeling the pressure to, I know I want to do all of these things that I like to do, but I know that the best thing to do is to offer it unto Yahweh, so I guess I'll do it. Like,
I guess I have to.
Yeah, if you say so. Like, that's not what this voluntary will, that's not what this offering unto Yahweh under your own voluntary will is, right? It's not something that is burdensome. It's something that you're doing.
You should take delight in it.
Just right. The word ratzon literally means delight or desire. Like you want to do it. You want to give this strong power. You want to hand your strong power over unto Yahweh. And again, this is the we're looking at this is really what the concept of sacrifice really is about. You desiring, you having a strong desire to give over something unto, in this case we're talking about unto Yahweh. Right? This the doing this thing brings delight and satisfaction. It's not something that is like you're doing under duress.
Yeah, it sort of reminds me of the like the flood that's going on now, and all the victims of the flood, and how people they desire to go help, like they want to. It's not like it's not like they're being forced to go. Like, you know, it pulls at your heart to want to go and volunteer. You know, and so it's I guess it's rewarding. It's something that you like to do to help people.
Or you could think about the people who potentially are going through it, where before, when your life is doing good, you're not really thinking about your own mortality or anything else.
You sure don't.
Like that. But then
you sure don't. Wow.
Whenever there's the biggest tornado ever coming towards you.
Hurricane.
Yeah, hurricane, you know, on its way, you know, it could cause people to think about their life situation and how they're actually living,
I think
as
that
opposed to a voluntary choosing.
that's out of fear. Well, that one would be out of fear. I was just thinking about how the reality is that all of your blessings comes from the Most High anyway. So when you're giving back to Him, it's not like you're giving Him something that doesn't already belong to Him. You're just recognizing your own self.
He wants to make it your desire to do
it. Because it's already His anyway. You're His
freely
too.
willing,
Yep. That's what I try to tell his key in Africa, is that all the stuff that they have is really is really mine anyway. So when you give into me, you're just giving back to me what already belongs to me. It wasn't yours to begin with.
And I think also
Africa didn't like that one.
It only has to do with, that's exactly right. We're not real. It's not like Yahweh somewhere collecting the things that is given to Him, right? It shows your ability to be able to let go of these things.
Material things.
When we think about the fact that we're in the world, but we're not of the world. When we acquire these things, these earthly possessions, it lets you know how connected you are to it. If you're willing to just give the thing away. When you think about the idea of first fruits, which it talks about in the next chapter, the idea of offering your first fruits. As when somebody puts blood, sweat, and tears into into farming, into growing something, you nurture this thing, this little seed, and it grew all the way up until it turned into this fruit or this vegetable, this product that was that came. The offering of that first fruits, is really showing that even though you sat up here and did all of this work for this thing that you did, you're still recognizing that it's Yahweh at the end of the day. And
you did all the work.
Even
you might think you did all the work.
Right, and it kind of feels like you did all the work.
You was out in the sun.
Sweating and tired and everything else. But you're recognizing Yahweh when you say, this thing I dedicate unto you. Right? That's sacrifice. Not taking the stuff that you don't want and giving that to Him. But, the thing that maybe looks the best, the most prized thing, giving that to Him. Right?
That reminded me of? That just reminded me of when Denise was saying, I guess in one of her messages, like if you, like for a homeless person, if you have a dress and you're supposed to give them not just your stuff you don't want or stuff you're going to repack to the Goodwill, like you're supposed to give them your best dress. Like I had problems trouble in my heart with that.
Because you're like,
I'm like, I can't. I'm not going to give them my best. Like I'm not going to give them my best dress. So that showed where I was at, clearly, because I'm like, I'll give them some good stuff, but I ain't gonna give them my best. I'm not gonna give them the one in the box that's wrapped up in my box. And I don't know how to get past that one, but I'm sort of still there.
Oh, we're talking about giving unto Yahweh.
But yeah, we're talking about giving unto Yahweh. But when she used that as an example, I said, I don't know if I want to do that. I mean, but I guess we are supposed to, even with, people. I guess we're not supposed to consider the cost. Just you.
If they need it, then.
If they need it, they need it. Yeah, I mean, that shows where your heart is with y'all and how we, see people too. Yeah, I got to repent for that one.
Okay, so we have all of these ideas here of delightfully giving, delightfully giving over to Yahweh, and not kind of holding on to things and making these things be a true sacrifice. The significance of the bull in terms of being that strong will and that self-determination. Now, when you think about the other thing that's given down in verse 10, the sheep and the goats. We think about goats. Again, goats are kind of these kind of stubborn kind of animals who just kind of just get the small one. These animals are always trying to get away. They're always trying to escape.
They teach the sheep how to get away.
Right. Me being somebody who wants to move out to the country, people keep on talking to me about sheeps and running into your knees and
goats or sheep.
I mean goats ramming you with their horns and stuff, and being these little disobedient little animals that they are.
They're so cute. They can't be that bad.
Well, the goats.
No, the goats are cute.
Oh, you think goats are cute?
It's sort of cute.
It was playing when the kids was.
Is that goats or sheep? Though?
The kids was playing with goats.
No.
The kids.
And that's what it is.
That's what the goat is.
Yeah, that's what the goat is.
That's why we call them kids. But they was playing with the goats.
I was feeding.
He was feeding them. They was getting on rocks and stuff.
Well, despite the fact that they can look cute, they still have this
disobedience.
They have a reputation for being kind of these little disobedient animals that want to try to escape.
And teach others to escape.
And teach others.
And when we look at what Yeshua talks about in terms of returning and gathering up the goats and the sheep and separating the sheep from the goats, and the goats being those ones that are left behind, it kind of gives you that, lets you see that the characteristic of the goat, although it's this thing that is, it fits the criteria for something that's able to be sacrificed unto Yahweh, we still are able to look at the characteristics that are inside of that goat and recognize that it's something that we can, see inside of ourselves, but that we are supposed to be releasing and giving over unto Yahweh.
It's like the strong will from the bull, and also the disobedience from the goat.
Right.
And then the sheep is just dumb. So that's
they have a reputation. Not being able to get up when they fall.
Well, we can't think through things on our own. Like, we think it through our own human reasoning. We're not going to end up in the right place.
We're very limited. We're very, very limited. Even though some of us think we're so intellectual.
Well, yes, you do have the idea of the sheep being this kind of a thing, this little animal that needs to be led. It needs a shepherd. It needs a shepherd. It needs to be led. But I think we think about what we can gain from the kind of characteristics of a sheep
as us
is actually being leadable. and allowing Yeshua, who is our good shepherd, to actually be that for us, and to be that sheep that is loyal to our shepherd, who is Messiah. So when we think about this idea of these animals that have these characteristics, whether they be good characteristics or bad characteristics, we need to think about in terms of when we're talking about approaching Yahweh or drawing nigh unto Yahweh. We have to again think about the idea of handing these things over unto Yahweh freely, not holding on to, not trying to be our own shepherd as a sheep, trying to be our own shepherd, but allowing Yeshua to actually be that shepherd, allowing him to lead and guide us, handing over that strong will and that self determination, handing that over unto Yahweh, and again freely doing it. Think about birds. These birds who can just be free. Right, a bird is just the freest thing that I could just even think about.
They can go across states and stuff.
Yeah, just go wherever it wants to. Right, just fly.
Go wherever it wants to go. Yep.
Go across the
Always
board.
have food.
I know.
Live wherever they want.
Yeah,
Fly.
it's whatever. It
Travel.
doesn't matter. But as far as sacrifice, right? We have to be able to give up our freedoms, our liberties, unto Yahweh. There's things that we could rightfully do, which a thing in and of itself would not be wrong, but when it comes to giving up those things for the greater good, are we willing to do it? Think about the idea of a bird. A bird can fly and go and be wherever it wants to be at. But these birds that they mentioned, turtle dove and the pigeons, right, can be free and can go off and be wherever they want to be. But think about like those people that like have these little pigeon, like the carrier pigeons, where they have all these pigeons where they go out and they fly all over the place. But when they're done doing all that, they come back.
The train.
Where they really could go wherever they want to go.
I always wondered how do they train?
But they come back.
How do they get them to come back to first?
I don't know how that works.
That's amazing.
But to me, when I look at that, it makes me think about the fact that we could just go and just live our own lives, and Yahweh really gives us He could really give us the mind to just go and do that. But again, we look about this idea of doing this unto Yahweh of our own voluntary will, even though we had the ability to go out and live and do things,
be free,
and be free. He calls for us to do it under the parameters of being the people that He would have for us to be. So, when we look at the characteristics, I guess, of a bird, this offering that's acceptable unto Him, is kind of this thing that has that restrained freedom, where yes, you have the ability to do certain things, but it's not always it's not always profitable to do so. To walk in your liberties.
So we're given these liberties.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I never really thought about how the bird was, and how it's free, and just giving that over.
Yeah.
That's what kids, they always want. They think about when they turn a certain age, they'll be free.
Free as a bird.
Free to do that.
I used to think that too.
Then once you get there, you realize it ain't all that.
Oh, it ain't all that. It ain't all that at all. I used to tell my kids that all every day. Once you get here, you ain't gonna want to be here. You want to go back to being a kid. Be a kid as long as you can. As long as y'all can. Be a kid.
Okay, so
So these animals, when we're offering them, it's really representing parts of our character
right, I think it can.
that we're giving over to Yahweh.
Right. Our freedom and our stubbornness and our ability to be led and our self-will and self-determination, personal strength. We really need to freely give over, sacrifice these things unto Yahweh. If we're going to sacrifice anything unto him, sacrifice those things, right?
I think as I'm meeting people, there's a tendency for people not to be, teachable, or not to want to be led or whatever. They kind of just want to, and it's really sad because they're using YouTube as their medium to figure out what's what. You know what I mean? Instead of like actually studying and learning and kind of submitting themselves under leadership or whatever. They're like, oh well, I'm gonna research this on YouTube, and I'm like, well, I could tell you the answer right now. Like, we got to research on YouTube when you could just open the Bible up and read it right here.
Yeah,
But it's just this whole ability, this whole self-determination, this whole personal strength, this whole pride. Yeah, and then what happens is that because of all of this self-determination and this strength that is in their own power, they kind of start inventing things up that don't even, make too much. Don't even hardly make that much sense,
To them it did.
Makes sense. People talking to me about things that aren't even that important, and I'm like, well, what about this? This is way more important than this, but it just doesn't register, And
it's so acceptable today too. Me and Sister Sarah was talking about that the other day. How all these different beliefs and religions, like if I tell my employer, oh, I can't work that day because of the Sabbath. Oh, well, what's your religion? Like, it's okay that we all have different beliefs. Like, all these different religions. Oh, okay, that's your religion. Mine is this. And we're supposed to think that that's okay. We're not all supposed to have all these different beliefs.
Okay, so is there any questions or comments about the first chapter? When we look at the second chapter, it talks about the meal offering, which is dealing with the grain offering. We look down at verse 4 through 9, it talks about the different cakes that you would bring as the meal offering, whether it's the baked cake, the
This sounds good. Cooked in oil,
cooked in a
fried in oil.
cooked in a pan, or hold on, we got this baked in a pan, so fried in a pan. Bread, all unleavened bread was used for this meal offering.
Where are we at?
Chapter 2.
Leviticus 2, 4.
Yeah, read 2, 1 through 9.
Now, when anyone presents a grain offering as an offering to Yahweh, his offering shall be of fine flour, and he shall pour oil on it and put frankincense on it. He shall then bring it to Aaron's sons, the priests, and shall take from it his handful of its fine flour and of its oil and all of its frankincense. And the priest shall offer it up in a smoke as a memorial portion on the altar, an offering made by fire of a soothing aroma to Yahweh. And the remainder of the grain offering belongs to Aaron and his sons, a most holy thing of the offerings to Yahweh by fire. Now, when you bring an offering of a grain offering baked in an oven, it shall be unleavened cakes of fine flour mixed with oil, or unleavened wafers spread with oil. And if your offering is a grain offering made on a griddle, it shall be a fine flour unleavened mixed with oil. And you shall break it into bits and pour oil on it. It is a grain offering. Now, if your offering is a grain offering made in a pan, it shall be made of fine flour with oil. When you bring in the grain offering, which is made of these things to Yahweh, it shall be presented to the priest, and he shall bring it to the altar. The priest shall then take up from the grain offering its memorial portion, and shall offer it up in smoke on the altar as an offering to Yahweh, soothing offering by fire of a soothing aroma to Yahweh. And the remainder of the grain offering belongs to Aaron and his sons, a most holy thing of the offerings to Yahweh by fire.
Okay. All right, so again, we have this meal offering that was brought, the offering that was brought unto Yahweh. Any leftovers could have been taken by the priests. Hold on, I want you to unplug the thing. This again was the unleavened cakes. Unleavened flour was used. No leavening agent was added to this thing that you was offering up to Yahweh. Again, we know that we have this understanding that leavening is given that idea of sin and puff upness. It gives the idea of our soul and our flesh and our desires, our need to want to rise up. And so again, this thing that was offering unto Yahweh and that the leftover was left for the priest was this thing that was void of that, right? It was void of that thing that builds up, that puffs up, that causes one to be high or bloated, or the idea of elevating. All of that was taken out. So again, it kind of just kind of fortifies the idea of being unleavened being this thing that's free from sin. And again, it gives the idea, it continues the idea of Yahweh having these parameters for how he is to be approached.
Yeah.
He doesn't just accept anything. He has specific parameters for how he wants to be approached. And we can't say that we know him, that we have a relationship with him, and then yet try to just come to him anyway.
Because that means you don't know him. You do.
Right. It's just proof that you don't. I've met some interesting people that out in one breath they claim to be followers of the Son of Elohim, but unless they tell you that, unless they tell you that, you don't know. The only reason why you do know is because they tell you, but based on their actions, based on the conversation,
or based on how you see them interact with other people.
Yeah.
Like if you see somebody cussing somebody out in the store, and
and it be that one, he the one, not the cussee, but the cusser.
It's the one.
It'd be him, and he come out talking about some praise the Lord afterwards.
I mean, because we have actually rolled up on somebody who was like, they're supposed to be in the faith and everything, and they're in a rage, an angry rage.
Really?
In the public, and then it's like because somebody did something to them or whatever, you know what I mean? And then they see you, and then it's like, oh, hi.
Shalom.
And you're like, well, what just happened? But yeah.
Really?
Yeah. that puffing up. Yeah.
There's a whole lot of 11.
Now, I'm not talking about other people because when I drive sometimes, what did I say? I said something about drop kicking someone. I said, I wish I knew how to do that. I said, I wish I knew how. I don't know how to do it. So and then the kids heard me. Then I was like, oh, wait. I got to took it too far. My road rage got to me. You know what I mean? But
yeah, because somebody almost hit you and then you went crazy.
I didn't go crazy. Don't say all that.
What? I don't hit the car with the kid on. Oh goodness.
I was all the way at the back of the car.
Yeah. So the point here
The point is that's a bad thing, you guys.
The point here is that in those things pertaining unto Yahweh,
Yes.
he has a criteria.
That's how you should think.
And he wants for those things that are offered unto him. If we're a living sacrifice, right? When we think about sacrifice in the first place, these sacrifices really are representative of life. So when we're giving up a life, it kind of like standing in proxy for us.
Yes.
Right? We can't literally, under the old covenant, a person, you can't literally give your own life
on the altar.
Right, on the altar, but you can give a representation of your life or that blood, which the life is in the blood. You give that representation of that life, through this animal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The best animal that you personally could give. If you were able, you gave the bullock. If you wasn't able to give the bullock, you gave the sheep or the goat. If you wasn't able to give the sheep or the goat, you gave the turtle dove and the pigeon.
Yeah.
But it's all a representation of giving over that life, right? So we're a living sacrifice. We're a living sacrifice. We're killing these different characteristics within us that we saw in the bullock and the sheep and the goat and the bird. We're killing those things inside of us and giving that over to the Most High.
Amen.
Okay, so all right, let's look over at Isaiah 43 and 21.
I see go there. Isaiah 43, 21.
Isaiah 43, 21. Yeshayahu, chapter 43. Verse 21.
Can you read it?
Yeah.
This people have I formed for myself. They shall shew forth my praise.
Okay, so again, y'all are talking about his
I love that.
people.
That's the only
Elohim,
verse in there?
Israel. Yeah, one verse.
Just one verse?
Yeah, one verse. This people have I formed for myself. They shall show forth my praise. So again, when you think about being Israel, when you think about being the people of Yahweh, when you think about the people of Yahweh, who here is talking about how he formed for himself, he formed the people for himself, he formed the people so that they might draw near, that they might approach him, right? And then he even shows us how to do it, right?
He gives instruction.
He gives this instruction and formulates the parameters, the boundaries, the standards for his people. They will declare my praise, it says. They will show forth my praise, right? So they're going to look and be and sound a certain way.
Yeah.
That word, to some verses say declare, some say show forth. That
But
word,
it's going to come forth from you, right?
well, you will do it, but the word is safar, to count or inscribe or to write. Yeah, it could be
So the
book.
book, Sefer.
Yeah, like the Sefer Bible. Something that's been recorded, something that's been written, something that's been declared, something that's been communicated, something that's been enumerated. So it's something that's been put into action, right? It's something that has been manifest. It's something that has come to pass. But the thing that it's talking about is what? Praise. Praise, which is Tehillah. Tehillah, which looks like Tav. Tehillah. That word means a laudation or a hymn or a praise. Think about praise, you think about singing or some type of shouting, declaration, proclamation. The word Tehillah, the root is, I guess, here. Root. Halal. Halal is the root of Tehillah. Halal. The root actually, has an extra lamed, which means to be clear, originally of sound, but usually of color, to shine, to make a show, to boast, and thus to be foolish, to rave, celebrate, commend, to give light, sing, praise, shine. So when you think about this verse where it's talking about this people have I formed for myself, they will declare forth my praise. When we talk about, again, this praise is this idea of shining or boasting or celebrating Yahweh. We're talking about if you're a person who is this people who has been formed by Yahweh, who's been given the ways and shown how to be brought near unto Yahweh, who've been called by Yahweh and caused and had their minds turned to Yahweh with strength, then it looks like it. Right? It looks like it. You have a sign. I'm talking about what this is, the word praise, Tehillah. You have a sign of breath and leading by breath. Right? When you think about breath, you think about the spirit, the ruach, the breath of life. So you got the sign of the breath of life and the leading of or by the breath of life. It looks like something, right? It's light, right? We're supposed to be lights unto the world. People should be able to look at us and see. They should be able to look at us and see a sign on us of breath. They should be able to look at us and see a sign of life in us, right? And they should be able to look at us and see that we are being led by and taught by life, by Yahweh, right? Because we're supposed to be showing forth our praise, and praise again being light. It says that the word halal is to be clear, originally of sound, but usually of color. So it's talking about clear kind of visuals. You're clearly able to see something that connects with this other thing. Well, the other thing here that we're talking about is Yahweh, right? There's a clear understanding. It's not something that is kind of foggy. It's something that's clear. I'm able to look at you and how you are and your conduct and how you behave as an individual. I'm able to look at you and know you're not like all these other people. You're different. You're like something else. Like you're like Yeshua. That should be something that is evident in your life. Because it says right here, the people have I formed for myself, and they will. That's what they're going to do. That's going to be what they look like, is people that are showing forth my praise.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Showing forth my light.
We're not. We're like like the moon. We're showing for Yahweh's light.
Yes, exactly like
Reflecting
it's
it.
exactly like the moon. The moon is not like the moon has a choice. That's just what it is. Essentially, the moon is this thing that don't have its own light. It reflects the light of the sun, and that's just essentially what it is. It just shines forth the light.
Mm.
That's
That's
shine on it.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. So we need to ask ourselves: are we doing that? Do we got a mark on us? A mark of the Spirit and being led by the Spirit. Do we have that mark on us? Is this what our lives look like as individuals? Are we walking around looking like Yeshua and causing people to look towards Yeshua, or at least understanding that maybe I don't want to live like that, but I can see that he's living like that. I can't do what you doing, but I recognize that you doing it. Right, because they see the sacrifice that you have in your life, that sacrifice, that giving up of things that everybody else is doing. You ain't doing that. So funniest thing. It's kind of trivial, but I guess to people who speak, especially working in construction, people talk a certain kind of way.
It cusses.
Cuss a lot. Yeah.
It's interesting. So one guy asked me, when was the last time you cussed? You said a cuss word.
You had to think about it.
Somebody asked you.
But
That's not like high school.
It's just funny that somebody would even ask me that. It becomes evident just by talking. It's like everybody else talks a certain kind of way, and I don't talk like that.
Do they have to turn that talking on when they go to work? Like, do you think they talk like that all the time?
Yeah, it's just how people.
That's how it is.
But it's just so natural.
It's kind of crazy because
it's just so natural like that. That's just you could tell. That's just
their talk.
It's like I talk the same way all the time.
That's how they talk.
People just talk the same. I guess they do.
That is last time you cut.
That's funny.
Yeah. So the point is that not that cussing necessarily has anything to do with it, but the fact that living a life unto Yahweh is different than what the world is doing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference. There's a distinction. There's a separation. And this is really what our lives should be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That reminded me of telling a story. When I talk to people at work, they don't, and they're so far, they can't even fathom.
Yeah.
Like they say, well, you're not married, so when's the last time you dated, or And I'm like, my son was like 4 months old. They don't even believe me. They're so far. They're like, no, yeah, right. Like, I'm like, well, yeah. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. That's funny. Like it's impossible. Like that's impossible. Well, I don't even think about that.
Okay. All right. So I know that's just one verse, but anybody have any comments on that one?
That's a good verse, though. That's a good one. That's why we are made. This is why we were formed. Give Yahweh praise.
This is our purpose.
This is our purpose. Give Yahweh praise. I think I'm gonna put this on my wall because I gotta remind myself it ain't for me every day. I'll be thinking, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta wake up with that on my mind. Like, you know, this day is for Yahweh. It don't matter what happened to me today. This day is for Yahweh. That's a good verse. That one verse.
Okay. Okay, let's go over to Micah. Let's go over to Micah chapter 6.
Micah's You want to see your son's book? Micah.
6, 9 to 7, 8. 6, 9 to 7, 8.
I can read. The voice of Yahweh will call to the city, and it is sound wisdom to fear thy name. Hear, O tribe, who has appointed its time? Is there yet a man in the wicked house, along with treasures of wickedness, and a short measure that is cursed? Can I justify wicked scales in a bag of deceptive weights? For the rich men of the city are full of violence. Her residents speak lies, and their tongue is deceitful in their mouth. So also I will make you sick, striking you down, desolating you because of your sins. You will eat, but you will not be satisfied, and your vileness will be in your midst. You will try to remove for safekeeping, but you will not preserve anything. And what you do preserve, I will give to the sword. You will sow, but you will not reap. You will tread the olive, but will not anoint yourself with oil. And the grapes, but you will not drink the wine. The statutes of Omri and all the works of the house of Ahab are observed, and in their devices you walk. Therefore I will give you up for destruction, and your inhabitants for derision, and you will bear the reproach of my people. Woe is me, for I am like the fruit pickers and the grape gatherers. There is not a cluster of grapes to eat, or a first ripe fig which I crave. The godly person is perished from the land, and there is no upright person among men. All of them lie in wait for bloodshed. Each of them hunts the other with a net. Concerning evil, both hands do it well. The prince asks also the judge for a bribe, and a great man speaks the desire of his soul. So they weave it together. The best of them is like a briar, the most upright like a thorn hedge. The day when you post a watchman, your punishment will come. Then their confusion will occur. Do not trust in a neighbor. Do not have confidence in a friend. From her who lies in your bosom, guard your lips. For son treats father contemptuously. Daughter rises up against her mother. Daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies are the men of his own household. You're supposed to give it. Oh, 8. But as for me, I will watch expectantly for Yahweh. I will wait for the Elohim of my salvation. My Elohim will hear me. Do not rejoice over me, O my enemy. Though I fall, I will rise. Though I dwell in darkness, Yahweh is a light for me.
Okay.
Amen.
Yeah.
Okay, so we look at that and we see kind of this description of all of this stuff going on. Bad stuff, wickedness. People got two wicked hands, right? Both your hands is doing wickedness, right? Wickedness all around. People not prospering, sowing, but not reaping. All of these things happening against all of these people as a result of wickedness. Because when you think about it as a whole, the world is wicked. The world's wicked. When we think about the fact that Yeshua said, many are called and few are chosen. Everybody that lives is not going to be there at the end. So that's what that's saying is that there is when you think about this idea of the world, for the most part, is wicked. When you look around, when you look at this description of what's going on, all that you see is wicked. And that's really what I can say that's what my reality is. When I look out, when I look around, I see more bad than good. We have these things that happen. And it's kind of just like you can look at what's going on and connect it with what you think the end times may be like, but at the same time, it's a part of it really is a part of the cycle of life. This place that we're in, has these kind of, I don't want to say purgings, but cleansings, of things in this earth. And it's necessary for people really to be able to concentrate on Yahweh and establish a relationship with Yahweh, because of the fact that at any moment, this life as we know it can be changed. It can be flipped upside down before you know it. There can be these natural disasters. We're not even talking about people having, nuclear wars and that don't have nothing to do with man's doings, but just Yahweh, just the Creator, just nature, right? Just the things that go on with nature is far more. Can be far more devastating than things that, there's nothing it don't have nothing to do with man's will or decision to say, I'm going to push a button or I'm going to send people over here and do this. It don't have nothing to do with that. No diplomacy can stop it or change it, right? It just is what it is. And it can be devastating. But at the end of the day, what does it say? But as far as I'm concerned, I will watch expectantly for Yahweh. Right, verse 7 of chapter 7. I will watch expectantly for Yahweh. I will wait for Yahweh, knowing that he's coming, expecting him to come. Right? I will wait for the Elohim of my salvation. My Elohim will hear me. My Elohim will hear me, right? This is really what our life must be about. And the reason that we're able to have that praise, right? The reason why we're able to be that light in this world of darkness is because of the hope that we have in our salvation. who is Yeshua. Right? So though I fall, I know I'm gonna get up. Right? And then when you even look at this, though I fall, I will rise. We don't know if that's a temporary fall or a permanent fall. Right? Whether that fall is death.
Okay. So
You still know that you're gonna rise. Right? If it's just if it's a temporal thing, is this a setback, some type of consequence or circumstance that happens, you know that you'll rise. But if it's a permanent thing, if something is to be fatal,
to death.
right? If that falls unto death, you know you're gonna rise.
Mm-hmm.
In Yeshua. Though I dwell in darkness, Yahweh is a light for me. And again, we can look at that darkness as being, whatever you want for it to be, whether it's, again, circumstances or situations, whether it be temporal or permanent. There's light. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and that light is Yeshua. For those that are in Yeshua, right? Those that are fulfilling their purpose in Yahweh. Fulfilling their purpose in terms of Yahweh, again, as we read, formed a people. Right?
Walking in that purpose.
To be walking in the purpose that he formed his people to be praisers, to be those that are showing forth his praise, his light into this world of darkness. Not being affected by the darkness, but you affecting the darkness because of the light that's in you.
Yeah. And I think that is a major, like, one of the things when I talk about Inez, because I talk about her sometimes.
Talk about me.
But one of the most beautiful things about Inez is that when people start complaining around her, now I know you say sometimes you do start complaining, but for the most part, what I have noticed and observed is that when people are negative and complaining around her, she'll just have this laugh and she'll bring it back to Yahweh or bring it back to something on a positive level. You know what I mean? Like she don't allow that darkness, what other people might be bringing and complaining, including myself sometimes, coming up and complaining to her. She'll be like, well, she bring it back. You know what I mean? She brings it back to where we're supposed to be thinking about and thinking on the good things, on the positive things, not dwelling on negative things and stuff like that. And that's just how we're supposed to be. If we're reflecting the light, when the darkness comes upon us, we don't become darkness like the darkness that's coming upon us. We encourage them, yeah. We bring the light, you know what I mean? And that's what we're supposed to do. We're not supposed to be all getting taken away by the darkness.
Yeah. I find myself being that person that, especially at work, probably mostly at work, because it gets so much negative around.
Not bad.
You know what I mean? So people find reasons to complain and all of these things. And I kind of like to be the one who can find the bright side in a dark situation. Because, when you think about it, and just in life in general, complaining doesn't change anything, right? Just in general, complaining about your situation or your circumstances, there's nothing that a complaint can do to change the situation. So why even do it? So instead of thinking about,
it feels good.
Well, yeah, but it feels good to your carnal mind. It feels good to your mind. And unless your words have magical powers, they're not going to change your circumstances, right?
Yeah.
So there's no point in
What's the point in doing it?
In talking about it. right? So when you thinking about the idea of dwelling in darkness, yes, we are dwelling in darkness. That's where we dwell.
Mm-hmm.
We dwell in darkness, right? But what we have to do is shine that light, right? Shine the light of Yahweh on the darkness. So again, we think about the thing about complaining and being kind of Debbie Downer, right? As being those that are formed for Yahweh, for his purposes, and created to be those that have the mark of the Spirit on them. We have to, it's kind of our duty. That's what is our job. It's our task, to be that light.
Turn the darkness into light.
Right, affecting that darkness with our light, the light of Yeshua, the light of Yahweh inside of us. Okay, does anybody have any other thoughts or comments about what we just looked at in Micah 6, 9 through 7? If not, we can look at 1 Corinthians. First Corinthians chapter 3.
Read it loud.
1 Corinthians 3, 15.
It was 1 to
15
23.
verses. Oh, wait, is that the whole thing? 1 to 23. Oh, I had this break, but it is the whole chapter, right? Yes. 1 Corinthians chapter 3.
And I, brethren, could not speak unto you as unto spiritual, but as unto carnal, even as unto babes in Messiah. I have fed you with milk, and not with meat, for hitherto ye were not able to bear it, neither yet now are ye able. For ye are yet carnal. For whereas there is among you envying and strife and visions, are ye not carnal, and walk as men? For while one saith, I am of Paul, and another, I am of Apollos, are ye not carnal? Are ye not carnal?
Yeah.
Who then is Paul, and who is Apollos? But ministers by whom ye believed, even as Yahweh gave to every man. I have planted, Apollos watered, but Yahweh gave the increase. So then neither is he that planteth anything, neither he that watereth, but Yahweh that giveth the increase. Now he that planteth and he that watereth, all one, and every man shall receive his own reward according to his own labor. For we are laborers together with Yahweh. Ye are Yahweh's husbandry. ye are Yahweh's building. According to the grace of God, which is given unto me, as a wise master builder, I have laid the foundation, and another buildeth therein. But let every man take heed how the buildeth thereupon. For an other foundation can no man lay than that is laid, which is Yeshua Messiah. Now if any man build upon this foundation gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, and stubble, every man's work shall be made manifest. For the day shall declare it, because it shall be revealed by fire. And the fire shall try every man's work of what sort it is. If any man work abide which he hath built thereupon, he shall receive a reward. If any man's work shall be burned, he shall suffer loss, but he himself shall be saved, yet so as by fire. Know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? If any man defile the temple of God, him shall God destroy. For the temple of God is holy, which temple you are. Let no man deceive himself. If any man among you seemeth to be wise in this world, let him become a fool, that he may be wise. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness with God. For it is written, he taketh the wise in their own craftiness. And again, Yahweh knoweth the thoughts of the wise, that they are vain. Thereof let no man glory in them, for all things are yours, whether Paul or Apollos, or Cephas, or the world, or life, or death, or things present, or things to come. All are yours. And ye are Messiahs, and Messiah is God's.
Okay. Okay, very good. So we look back at this letter here to the Corinthians. Paul sitting up here talking to these people who had these various divisions based on, who their various teachers were. Some saying, well, I'm one of Paul's disciples, or I'm one of Apollo's disciples. I subscribe to this one's teachings, or I subscribe to that one's. We have, now, with all of these different denominations, all of these different groups. Look what she got. All these different groups and different denominations, and all of these different camps, and all these things. At the end of the day, it's the same kind of a thing. Paul is sitting up here saying that all of that stuff is carnal. It's fleshly, right? Because you may have been watered, you may have been planted by this one or that one, but it's Yahweh. It's Yahweh who gives the increase. right? So, Paul here is looking at all of these things, and he's saying, you people are sitting up here putting the emphasis in the wrong area, right? You want to put all of this this allegiance to even his own self, right? You want to put your allegiance to saying that you're of me, right? He's the writer, right? Or of this other person, Apollos, and then later at the end he even adds Paul into the mix. Peter into the mix, right? But the key is what? Is Messiah, right? Messiah is the one. He's the head of the body, who is the congregation. He's the head.
So if you're gonna boast in something, it should be boasting in him.
Boasting in Messiah, not what group you from, not what
your education,
right, or what your religious affiliation. Right, because he says here, down in verse 10, according to the grace of Elohim which is given to me, like a wise master builder, I laid a foundation. Paul's talking about the foundation that he laid, and another is building upon it. But each man must be careful how he builds on it. For no man can lay a foundation other than the one which is laid, which is Yeshua. So Paul's not sitting up here talking about his foundation is so much better than anybody else's foundation. But he is saying that because the foundation that he laid is Yeshua. He knows that the foundation that he laid was Yeshua. Yeshua was the foundation. It wasn't on some little silly doctrines. It wasn't on any carnal things. This carnality wasn't the foundation. He knows that his foundation, the foundation that he laid, was Yeshua. So nobody can put nothing on top of that. In fact, be careful of those people who's putting stuff on top of that, because of the fact that not because his foundation was any better than anybody else's foundation was, but because he knows that the foundation that he laid was indeed Yeshua.
But that's really interesting, because a lot of these foundations out here aren't of Messiah. They're of other things.
Yes.
And it's like we have to be careful that we are laying the foundation, which is Yeshua, and not some carnal doctrine.
Exactly.
And then I think also with that, you can't say you're the only place where you could get truth.
That's right. You saying that just the same thing as Paul said.
Because that means people gotta come to you in order to get the truth, because they can't get it anywhere else. As long as it's out the Bible and it's being preached, Yeshua. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh, well, verse 11 is saying that. For no man can lay a foundation other than the one which is laid. But the one that is laid is the one which is Yeshua Messiah. So again, Paul's not sitting up here saying, I'm the only one who can sit up here and lay a foundation. But what he is saying is that he knows that his foundation was on Yeshua, and nobody can bring no other foundation that's outside of Yeshua. So people can't sit up here and say, well, you got to come to me because I got all the truth. Right? But what they can say is that if where you are going ain't preaching the foundation, which is Yeshua, which maybe I know that I'm preaching Yeshua and they ain't. Now verse 12 say, now if any man builds on the foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, hay, wood, hay, straw, each man's work will become evident. It will become evident. So we could say that a foundation that's based on Yeshua as being the foundation would be gold or silver or some precious stone. Because when that fire hits it, the gold is going to remain. The impurities, those will burn off. But it's still going to be gold in the end. But if it's wood, that stuff going to burn up. Right? If it's hay or straw,
that's going to disappear.
That stuff going to burn up fast.
Yeah,
like wood, it might take a wood a little bit longer to burn up, but it's going to burn up.
It's going to burn up.
And that hay and that straw is going to burn up real quick. But those precious stones and that silver and that gold, that stuff ain't going nowhere. Right? So we have to understand here that our foundation has to be Yeshua. Yeshua has to be the foundation of everything.
That's right.
Right? And if it's not, that stuff gonna burn up. Well, there is no point. Right? And it's going to become evident. Each man's work will become evident. Right? So if you building on wood and you're building on hay and straw, when the fire hits it, it's going to be shown what you're building upon. Right? When that fire hits it, for the day will show it because it is to be revealed with fire. So when the fire of circumstances and situations come, then you're going to find out whether that foundation that was laid is, whether it was wood, hay, stubble, or gold, or silver, or precious stone. If any man's work which he has built on remains, he shall receive a reward. If any man's work is burned up, he'll suffer loss. But he himself will be saved, yet so as through fire. So again, we're talking about based on what the foundation is. Right? When we think about the idea of the foundation being Yeshua, when Yeshua is the foundation, and then you adding to that foundation these other things, eventually those things will be burned up. And I think when we look at this fact that these people here, when Paul says, if any man's work is burned up, he shall suffer loss, but he himself will be saved, yet so as through fire, he can speak for those people because he knows that their foundation is on Yeshua. But I'm saying that when you think about those whose foundation has not been built on Yeshua, verse 15, I don't think it don't apply. It don't apply. Paul can say that for these people because he knows where their foundation is. But I'm saying if we're going to look at this thing and try to find practical application in it for right now, then we can look and understand that and know that if your foundation is not rooted in, grounded in Messiah, if your foundation is rooted in carnal matters, fleshly matters, things that we can say could be representative as wood, hay, and straw, things that will burn up, that have no substance. Then you can't be saved, right? How? Because there is no other foundation but Yeshua, but the stone that the builders rejected, right?
Well, it says in 15, if any man's work shall be burned, he shall suffer loss, but he himself shall be saved.
Yeah.
You said he can't be saved.
I'm saying Paul can say that because he knows the people who he's talking to.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So he's saying that these people here, he knows that the foundation that he laid, the foundation of the people who he sent out to lay foundation was basing it on Yeshua.
Okay.
So he's saying these people here, you got people coming in and now adding to the foundation,
Okay.
which is something other than Messiah.
Okay.
So that stuff is going to be burned off. But what I'm saying is that if we look at this and we're talking about foundations and saying that, you know, we bringing this up into 2017 and saying, if your foundation is not Yeshua, and your foundation is some wood or some hay or some straw or something other than Messiah, this can't be true for you.
I mean, a perfect example is someone who's just interested in knowledge, or a theologian that's teaching people about the Bible, and it's just based off of philosophy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if something tragic happens, it don't even have to be unto death. It could just be something tragic. Your faith is going to burn away. It's gonna,
Okay.
If my
it's not founded on Yeshua.
If my foundation is bloodline, if my foundation is who my daddy is, and I'm gonna say that I'm an Israelite because of melanin in my skin, that's some wood, stubble, hay.
Because it's your flesh, and that's gonna
that's carnality.
It's gonna burn away.
That's something that's gonna burn up. Your flesh under fire is going to burn and die and burn up, as opposed to some gold, silver, or precious stone. Right? When you apply fire to gold, what happens? All that happens is the impurities come out, but it's still gold at the end. So we equating this gold and this silver and this precious stones with Yeshua. And the thing that you're adding to Yeshua, when fire hits it, it's just going to burn away, but Yeshua is still going to remain. So if we're talking about foundations and Yeshua, and we're saying that unless your foundation is Yeshua, it's going to burn off and it's going to be insignificant. So we can say that if we do have a foundation that's founded in Yeshua and we add these other things, then you might suffer loss, but you'll still be saved in the end. If we say that my foundation is Yeshua, but then now I have all of these kind of things that we could equate as carnal teachings and doctrines, at the end of the day, when we added all these things to Yeshua, they'll burn off, but Yeshua still remains. We can still say that we're saved. But I'm saying that if you're a person who your foundation is in attaining information and, knowledge of self, you know what I mean? If that's your foundation, there's no salvation in that. Once the fire comes, there's going to be nothing that remains because you don't have that true foundation. And he was talking to these people, saying, he started off, I could not speak to you as spiritual men, but as to men of flesh, as to infants in Messiah. We think about Yeshua, we think about the truth of who Yeshua is. At the end of the day, right? This is a spiritual thing. We're in the flesh. We're in the flesh, but we're spiritual beings, right? So the thing that should be being lifted up is our inner man, our spiritual man. But when you have these people who the thing that they rise up to the top is carnality in the flesh, when everything that we can connect to the flesh is something that has these, like we just got finished looking at the bull and the goat and the sheep and all these things that we can connect to the carnal mind and the flesh, the things that we need to offer up unto Yahweh.
Yeah.
Those are the things that you know, are relatable to these things that were sacrifices, the things that were given up. When we look at the thing that Yeshua is coming to really do at the end of the day, is to give us a renewed physical body. At the end of the day, it's going to be a new body. So why could there be so much emphasis on this physical body when this thing is dead, it dies every day, and at the end of the day, we're getting a new one? So why would this be a thing that we put on top? It can't be that. It got to be this wood and this stubble and this hay. This thing is going to burn up. When we look at Yeshua returning, and he comes back with his willing fan, when he shakes that wheat, and he breaks apart all the hull and everything on the wheat, everything on the outside of the wheat falls off and breaks off, and that's the stuff that burns up. And the stuff on the inside is the stuff that you keep. That's the stuff that will remain. The stuff on the inside, the spiritual man. The outside, that stuff falls off. That stuff falls away, and that stuff is what will burn up. So, you know, looking at that really just caused me to think about what is really so prevalent today in these people's teaching these things. And you could sit there and listen to these people talk for hours and don't even hear nothing about Yeshua. And all they got to do with is this carnality in the flesh. I'm saying all of that is wood, stubble, hay. Right? Verse 14 says, 16, do you not know that you are the temple of Elohim and that the spirit of Elohim dwells in you? Right? So just how we look back there when we was looking at the sacrifices and talking about the tabernacle, the place where Yahweh dwelled, the way in which Yahweh prescribed for his people to approach him and to draw near to him, included these specific instructions and parameters. The same thing is true even now, right? So if we getting into these various jealousies and strivings and envyings, these various manifestations of the flesh and carnality, if we getting into all of these things, how can we at the same time say that we are functioning as the temple of Elohim? It's a contradiction, right? Yeah. The two things don't go together. So if I'm walking around and I'm not manifesting the praise of Yahweh, I'm instead manifesting all of these strifes and these envyings and these jealousies. This is what I'm manifesting. I'm not manifesting the light of Yeshua. I'm not manifesting the light of Yahweh inside of me into the darkness, but I'm kind of looking like the darkness and sounding like the darkness. I'm not being a true representation of Yeshua. I'm not being the temple of Elohim. I'm not functioning as somebody that has the spirit of Elohim dwelling on the inside.
Yeah.
That's some good stuff right there.
Does anybody have any thoughts or questions or comments on 1 Corinthians chapter 3?
I know I was talking to Teresa this morning about what did I say? I said I be getting caught up sometimes in this world.
Mhm.
So that 18, I was just reading that over and over. There's no man to save himself. If any man among you seemeth to be wise in the world, let him become a fool, that he may be wise. Yeah, that's a really lost verse for me today, because I always try to figure things out when things go wrong or this and that. And I try to be so, how you say it, worldly wise. Instead of letting Yahweh just take over or lead or guide. You know, I'm too quick to get in there, get in the arena, instead of letting Yahweh do it. So, yeah, I think that's a blessing to be.
When you look at that verse 18, it talks about if any man among you think that he is wise in this world or in this age, he must become foolish. Now, we talk about the idea of becoming foolish. Really, it seems like it's foolish in the eyes of the world.
Yeah.
What the world will call foolish, Yahweh will not call that foolish. He calls it wise. Right? But if you really want to become wise, your wisdom is not wisdom of this age.
Yeah.
So it's not going to look like what the world may think that it will look like.
Yeah.
So while we trying to figure out a situation in kind of these worldly terms and how things might seem like it should go or be, as soon as we step back and put it in Yahweh's hands, that's us really becoming wise.
That's us really becoming wise.
We sitting up here trying to figure out
that's
why am I sitting up here trying to
continuous problem. That thing keep coming back.
Yeah, because if you're sitting up here trying to figure out in terms of the wisdom of this age, I think you're probably really trying to fix it. Right? And it don't make sense for you to sit up here and try to fix some stuff that you don't have no control over, right? But that's what we do. We sit up here and well, what can I do to fix this? Right? Meanwhile, it's the Most High that's going to fix it. You need to be going to Him and let Him fix it, giving it over to Him.
I'm really giving it over.
But that's foolishness according to the world. It's foolishness just to throw your hands up and say, I can't do nothing about it. I just got to give it unto you. That's foolishness to the world. The world is saying, well, I should be able to Google this and figure this thing out. The world is saying there's an answer to this problem, and you can find it very easily if you look. That's the worldly wisdom. But the wisdom of Yahweh
eat this up right
giving
now.
it unto Him.
Eat this up right now. That will help my walk so much.
Yeah.
Too caught up in the world, too paying attention to everything.
The wisdom of this world is foolishness before Elohim.
Yes, it is.
That's what He said.
Yes, it is.
He is the one who catches the wise in their craftiness. Yahweh knows the reasonings of the wise, that they are useless. That's what He says. So at the end of the day, it just boils down to being able to trust in Yahweh and put and sacrifice. It's a sacrifice of giving over our will unto Him and letting Him be the one who's in control. And even though we're this big, strong, powerful being, this big, strong bull, right? We sacrifice our will and our knowledge and our power, we sacrifice that over unto him and let him be the one that's in control instead of us.
Amen. Amen.
That's us. That's the whole concept of like Bitul or the Gimel. You know, humbling ourselves, bowing ourselves down. He said, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Okay.
Amen.
Does anybody else?
Oh, Amana said this whole portion fits so well into the season of and our preparedness, our preparation for the feast.
Yeah. Right, because we really have to, when we're thinking about preparing ourselves for these feast days that are upon us, is recognizing our bullishness.
Yeah.
And recognizing our goatishness and seeing those things and sacrificing those things, because it may be something that we even like about ourselves, the bullishness, right? It may be something that you like about yourself, is that strength and power that you have inside of your own self.
Or being a bird, your freedom to do whatever you want to do.
Right.
I don't want to give up my freedom.
All right. You like that part. You want to keep that part and give away some other part. But Yahweh's saying he wants that part. Give him that. And he wants for you to want to give it to him.
Yeah, and he wants for you to want to give. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So yes, that's a good point. That is understanding these things about yourself is, this is the perfect time for that as we move forward towards the Day of Atonement. Getting yourself ready and continuing that process of turning away from the world, or turning away from self and turning unto Yahweh. Yes, that's very good.
Man, that is good. That's good stuff.
Okay, anything else? Questions, comments about any of that stuff? Okay, if not, then I guess we will be done for right now.